Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is the Tronsmart Ara X5, which is a small form factor computer with Windows 10 software, an Intel Atom Cherry Trail processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of built-in storage, 802.11n, dual band Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.0. It looks like the sort of device that you would just plug into a TV to stream internet video, like an Amazon Fire TV or a Roku, but it's a full-fledged Windows computer with basically the guts of an inexpensive Windows laptop or tablet, and it has the performance that you might expect from those sorts of devices, which is to say it can run full-fledged Windows applications, it can handle some multitasking. It's not a high-power computer, but for about $150 it does offer more versatility than you would get with something like a Roku. Maybe a slightly less TV-friendly interface, but you can use software to make up for that. Now, as I said, it sells for about $150 at geekbuying.com, which is the company that sent me this version to review. Some other retailers make it available as well. It's a made-in-China device. So let's take a quick look at the hardware, and then I will plug it in and show you what it can do. On the front, we've got a power button, headset jack, and two USB 2.0 ports. There's a little status LED on the top that glows when it's plugged in. Glossy black plastic cover with the Tronsmart logo. On the back, there is a power adapter, 10 by 100 Ethernet jack, HDMI, USB 3.0, and a micro SD card slot. So there's not a lot of storage built in, but there are 3 USB ports. So in addition to connecting a keyboard, mouse, or display, you can plug in USB flash drive, a micro SD card, USB hard drive, etc. if you need additional storage. And you probably will if you plan to do a lot of work with this or use it as a media center type PC, because 32 gigabytes of built-in storage is really not a lot to start with, or to finish with. On the bottom, you can see a large amount of vents, and that's because it is a fanless computer that runs silently. There's no fan, there's no hard drive, there's nothing inside that makes any noise, which is nice, and especially if you do plan to plug it into your TV and don't want a loud fan whirring as you watch videos. You can open up the case by removing these little rubber feet that elevate it a little bit and then undoing some screws, but once you get inside, you'll find that all the important parts are really attached to the motherboard. You can't upgrade the RAM, you can't upgrade the storage, and you can't upgrade the processor, so it really is sort of like a tablet under the hood. Let's go ahead and plug it in and turn it on. Power, HDMI, keyboard, and one of these is mouse. There we go. And then we're going to press and hold the power button until the light glows, and pan up the camera. I'm going to go ahead and cover this while I type in my password, but you can see it boots relatively quickly. And then we have the full-fledged Windows desktop. So, as I mentioned, you can use it as a media center PC, and one of the easiest ways to do that is probably with a third-party application, Kodi. Although you can also just browse to YouTube, Netflix, etc., and stream internet video if you prefer. But we're going to go ahead and launch Kodi and use the media center interface. So you could use this with a keyboard and mouse or with a remote control and sort of navigate your applications or your media this way, install extensions or add-ons in order to stream internet video and do other things. I've just got a couple of videos loaded on here to show you that even though we're hooked up to a 1080p display, you can handle 2160p video reasonably well. Now, video codecs and file formats are going to vary depending on the application you use. With Kodi, I found that this 1080p, or this 4K or 2160p video at 30 frames per second works pretty well. We can also switch to the 60 frame per second version, which generally works, but can be a little bit more stuttery, I find, sometimes. So that's MP4 video at 60 frames per second, 2160p resolution. Now, different file formats are going to work differently. So here's an H.265 video, which Kodi struggles with. Right now it's not displaying any video at all. Other times I've found that it plays video, but it has glitches. In fact, it seems to have crashed Kodi. So your results are going to vary depending on the application that you use, because that same video, let's just go ahead and cancel this, if you open it using a different application, plays just fine. So this is the 720p H.265 version of Big Buck Bunny. Just skip ahead a little bit here and... And here's a 1080p version using a different encoding method, which won't open at all in this application, but which plays fine in Kodi. So it can be a little bit hit or miss, but once you find the file types that you're planning to play, I think it does make a pretty decent media player system for definitely for 1080p and possibly for 2160p display as well. Now, in terms of general computing tasks, I've installed LibreOffice and other applications for image editing and document editing, and they work reasonably well, but in order to free up space, I went ahead and uninstalled them. You can find some benchmarks for various tasks at liliputing.com, but I wanted to show you real quick here that you can see that big red line there showing that we're almost out of space here. And I've only got a couple of applications and a couple of media files on this device. So again, you might want to add some external storage or connect it to a shared network drive or network attached storage device if you plan to use it, say, as a DVR. You could plug in a TV tuner, install DVR software, and record programs, but you're going to want to record them to external storage because right out of the box, you're going to have less than half of your 32 gigabytes of disk space available because Windows eats up a lot of it. Once you've installed some applications and downloaded some files, you run out of space in no time flat. So that's really one of the biggest limitations. Now, the built-in storage is not super fast. In fact, some hard drives even offer faster read and write speeds. So it's not really a huge sacrifice to use external storage instead of the built-in storage. But let's take a look at some web browsing. Now, I did a lot of blogging, because that's what I do for a living. I did a lot of blogging using this as my primary computer for a couple of days, and didn't really run into a lot of difficulty with some light image editing and some research and other things. So let's go ahead and open a few different browser tabs. And you can see that it can take a little while to load some of them, but they do load. And the system doesn't necessarily slow down while it's working. So let's go ahead and open a YouTube video in one window while surfing the web in another.
Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is the Chromecast audio, which is a small disc that looks sort of like a record, and that's because it's all about audio. You can plug it into pretty much any speaker to stream internet audio to that speaker, be it music, podcasts, internet radio, etc. It sells for about $35, and it's one of two updates to the Chromecast platform that came out in 2015. The original Chromecast came out in 2013, and it was a device with a little HDMI connector on one end. Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is the Google Nexus 5X. It's a smartphone with a 5.2-inch 1920 by 1080 pixel display.
Now, if you wanted to run Windows Store applications, you could do that as well. So let's see what we've got here. So it handles multitasking reasonably well. We've got multiple apps open. None of them are freezing or crashing. It can take a little while to get some of them up and running, but once they are running and in focus, they run pretty smoothly. Now, with all these different apps running, you might wonder what's going on in terms of actual system usage. You can see that the memory, it has 2 gigabytes, and almost all of it's in use right now, and the CPU is largely in use. But, again, the system doesn't feel particularly slow. So in terms of raw benchmarks, I found that it's certainly not the fastest computer on the market. You can find others that can do things like encode videos and audio files, create archives from using 7-zip or other zip archive utilities. Other computers do that more quickly, including models with Intel Broswell processors, which are sort of the faster version of the new Cherry Trail chips. But that's on a sort of sheer CPU usage metric. When it comes to actually multitasking and getting work done, I found that this one actually feels more responsive than some of the other computers that I've tested recently. And I think that's because the Cherry Trail processor, which is sort of the next generation version of the Bay Trail chips that were released starting in 2013, Cherry Trail seems to do a pretty good job with multitasking. So it can do almost anything a more powerful computer can do. It just does it a little bit more slowly. So for $150, I think that it's actually a pretty decent device, as long as you're not expecting high-performance gaming or really high-performance anything else. But for mediocre performance, it's not bad, and especially for an inexpensive, fanless system that's compact. So it's something that you could easily put by a TV. It would be fairly unobtrusive next to your television set. It's something that you could put in your bedroom or office or by your cash register, anywhere that you might want to use a low power computer and not have to invest a lot of money in it. The limitations really do come into play when you look at the fact that it does only have 2 gigabytes of RAM and it will never have more. It does only have 32 gigabytes of internal storage, so you're going to have to plug in external storage if you want more space than that. And the Intel Atom Cherry Trail processor is fine for most tasks in late 2015, but if you wanted to do serious gaming or other things that require a little bit more CPU power, it's really not up to the task, and who knows what the future holds. So I don't know how future-proof this computer is, but it can run Kodi Media Center, it can run Google Chrome, it can run the Microsoft Edge web browser. That's another thing actually I meant to mention, is that speaking of 2160p video, I found that when I open YouTube videos at 4K resolution in Google Chrome, they can be a little bit choppy. If I open the same videos using the Edge web browser, it works just fine. So overall, I think it's a nice little device for somebody who wants a little bit more functionality than you would get from a dedicated TV box or from something that runs Android. It's a full-fledged Windows 10 computer. It's just not a very powerful Windows 10 computer, but it's small, it's fanless, and it's relatively inexpensive for what it is. So that's the Tronsmart Ara X5, available for about $150. This is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and you can find more details, including benchmarks and photos and more information at liliputing.com.